Ron lived in a tall glass building in the busy part of the city, and he always believed that his work made him better than most people around him, and every morning he left home wearing a neat suit with shiny shoes while his wife Mia stayed behind in their quiet apartment doing the small daily tasks that kept everything running smoothly. And even though Mia did all the cooking, cleaning and planning, she never spoke much and never showed anger because she had learned long ago that silence was safer. Ron worked in a large company where he often talked loudly about his achievements and how one day he would be in a much higher position, and the people around him nodded because he sounded confident, and confident people were often believed even when they were wrong. And at home he carried the same pride and spoke as if everything in the house happened because of him, even though it was Mia who made sure the bills were paid, the fridge was full and the rooms were clean. Mia never argued with him because she knew some battles were not meant to be fought out loud, and she moved around the apartment softly, almost like a shadow, making sure everything was perfect before Ron returned from work. And many times he did not even notice how much she did, and if he did notice he never said thank you because he believed it was simply her duty. One evening Ron came home with a wide smile and said that his boss Mr. Gray was coming to visit the next day, and that this was a very important chance for him to look good and move higher in the company. And he told Mia to make the house look better than ever and to stay quiet when Mr. Gray came because he wanted the focus to be on him. Mia nodded gently and went to work cleaning every corner, polishing every surface and preparing food that would look and taste perfect. And even though her hands were tired, her face remained calm because she had been preparing for this moment in her own quiet way. The next day the doorbell rang and Ron quickly fixed his tie and rushed to open the door, welcoming Mr. Gray with a big smile and proud voice. And as they walked inside, Mia stood near the kitchen with her hands folded, waiting patiently. Ron waved his hand toward her and said in a casual tone that this was just their house help named Mia, and that she took care of small things while he focused on his big career. And when he said those words he felt strong and important, like he was showing his place in the world. Mia did not react in anger or surprise because she had expected something like this, and she simply nodded politely and stepped back without saying anything while Mr. Gray barely looked at her before turning back to Ron and continuing their talk. Inside, Mia felt no pain or fear because she had learned that sometimes being unseen was a kind of freedom. And while Ron laughed and talked loudly in the living room, Mia quietly returned to the kitchen and finished preparing the meal. When they sat down to eat, Ron spoke about his work and how valuable he was to the company while Mr. Gray listened and nodded, and Mia served the food and moved quietly around the table, making sure everything was perfect like a helper would do. After Mr. Gray left, Ron felt proud and told Mia that she had done well by staying in her place, and then he went to sleep without thinking twice while Mia cleaned the dishes and looked out the window at the city lights. Later that night, Mia opened her laptop and logged into a private system that few people knew about, and she read messages and reports that showed numbers far larger than anything Ron could imagine, and her calm face reflected the glow of the screen. Mia was not just a quiet house helper, she was someone who had built a strong world behind the scenes, and she had allowed Ron to live in his own small dream while she managed something much bigger. The next morning Ron went to work feeling confident that his meeting with Mr. Gray had gone perfectly, while Mia stayed home, but not because she was only cleaning and cooking, but because she was preparing something that would soon change the way everyone saw her. She made a few calls and sent a few messages, and everything moved quickly because people respected her and trusted her, even though Ron never knew this side of her. At the office, Ron sat at his desk talking to his co-workers about how impressed Mr. Gray had been and how soon he might get a promotion, and people listened because he spoke with so much confidence. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Mia walked into a quiet office building where people greeted her with polite respect and waited for her instructions, and she spoke softly but clearly, and every word carried weight. No one there saw her as a helper because they knew who she really was. As the day went on, plans were being set in motion that Ron could not see, and when the time came, everything would be revealed, not with anger or shouting but with calm and truth. For now, Mia returned home and prepared dinner as usual, waiting for the right moment to let the world see what had been hidden for so long. And somewhere between his pride and her patience, a storm was quietly growing. The next few days passed quietly in Ron and Mia's home, but inside both of them different worlds were moving at very different speeds, and Ron kept going to work every morning feeling proud and sure that his big moment was coming, while Mia stayed calm and careful, making sure that everything she was planning was ready at the right time. Ron could not stop thinking about how his boss Mr. Gray had visited their home and how he had spoken so nicely to him, and he imagined himself sitting in a bigger office with people listening to him and writing down his words. And when he talked to his co-workers, he told them how close he was to moving up, and they believed him because he spoke with so much confidence. At home, Mia continued her daily routine like nothing had changed, and she cooked and cleaned and smiled softly when Ron spoke to her, and he never noticed anything different because he never looked closely, and he believed she was just a simple person who lived to support him. But each night after Ron went to sleep, Mia opened her laptop and worked quietly, sending messages, checking numbers, and making sure every small detail was correct, and people from different places waited for her replies because they trusted her calm mind and steady decisions. One evening Mia received a message that everything was ready and she read it slowly and then closed her laptop with a peaceful breath because she knew the time was coming soon, and she looked at Ron sleeping and felt no anger, only a deep quiet understanding of how little he really knew. The next morning Ron went to work and found the office more busy than usual, and people were walking fast and talking in low voices, and some were carrying files and boxes, and Ron felt excited because he believed this meant something big was happening and maybe it was about him. Mr. Gray was not in his office that morning, and Ron waited and waited, and finally a message came that there would be a special meeting later that day and everyone had to attend, and Ron smiled thinking this was his moment. When the meeting time came, the large room filled with workers from every level, and they sat quietly as Mr. Gray walked in looking serious, and he began to speak about changes coming to the company and about new plans and new directions, and Ron listened carefully, waiting for his name to be called. Then Mr. Gray said that a very important person would be joining them and that this person had a big role in the future of the company, and the door opened and everyone turned to look. Mia walked in slowly and calmly, wearing a simple but neat outfit, and her face was steady and confident, and Ron felt confused when he saw her because he had never seen her in this place before. She walked to the front of the room and stood beside Mr. Gray, and he introduced her with respect as someone who had helped guide and support the company in ways many people never knew about, and Ron felt his heart beating fast as he tried to understand what was happening. Mia spoke in a clear, calm voice and thanked everyone for their hard work and spoke about plans for the future, and her words were simple but strong, and everyone listened closely because they could feel her confidence. Ron sat frozen in his chair as he watched his quiet wife speaking in front of everyone like a leader, and for the first time he realized that the woman he had called a house helper was someone far greater than he had ever imagined. After the meeting, people gathered around Mia asking questions and listening to her answers, and Ron stayed in his seat not knowing what to say or do, and the world he thought he knew was breaking apart in front of him. When the room finally cleared, Ron walked slowly toward Mia, and she looked at him with the same calm eyes she always had, and he tried to speak but no words came out because he did not know how to explain himself. Mia did not raise her voice or show anger, she only said that they would talk later, and then she turned and walked away with people following her to ask more questions. That evening Ron returned home feeling small and confused, and Mia came home later and went to the kitchen like always and began to prepare dinner, and the quiet between them was heavy with things left unsaid. Ron finally asked her how she had done all of this and why she had never told him, and Mia listened and then spoke softly, saying that she had wanted a simple life and had trusted him, but that trust had slowly faded when he chose pride over respect. Ron felt shame, but he did not know how to fix it, and Mia finished cooking and they ate in silence like two strangers sharing a table. That night Ron lay awake thinking about every moment he had spoken down to Mia and every time he had taken her work for granted, and he realized how wrong he had been, but he did not know if it was too late. Mia sat in the living room reading messages and planning the next steps for the company and for herself, and even though her heart was calm, her mind was strong and ready for whatever came next. The future was no longer hidden, and soon everyone would know the truth, not just at work but in their home too. After that surprising day at the office, everything felt different for Ron and Mia, and even though they were still living in the same apartment, it felt like two separate worlds were now sharing the same space, and Ron walked around quietly thinking about all the things he had said and done, while Mia continued her days with the same calm focus she always had. Ron started noticing small details about Mia that he had ignored before, like how she planned things carefully, how she stayed patient even when tired, and how people spoke about her with respect at work, and every time he remembered calling her a house helper in front of his boss, his heart felt heavy. At the office Ron found that people looked at him differently now, and some whispered while others avoided his eyes, and he realized that his loud words and proud stories did not mean much anymore because everyone knew who truly held real influence, and it was not him. Mia, on the other hand, moved through her work with quiet strength, and people listened to her ideas and followed her plans, and she never used her position to look down on anyone because she knew what it felt like to be unseen. At home the silence between them was deep, and even though they shared meals and small talks, the space between their hearts felt wide, and Ron wanted to say sorry, but the words never seemed strong enough to fix what he had broken. One evening Ron came home early and found Mia working on her laptop, and for a moment he just watched her, realizing that she had always been strong and capable even when he refused to see it. He finally spoke and told her that he was wrong and that he had treated her without respect and that he was ashamed of what he had done, and Mia listened quietly without interrupting, and when he finished she simply nodded. She told him that respect was not something given once but something shown every day, and that she had waited a long time for him to see her as a partner, not as someone beneath him. Ron felt a deep regret and promised to change, but Mia did not make any promises back because she knew that words were easy and actions were what truly mattered. In the days that followed, Ron tried to help more at home and speak more kindly and listen more closely, and even though his efforts were small they were a start, and Mia noticed, but she stayed cautious. At work, Mia continued to grow in her role and the company began to change under her calm guidance, and many workers felt hopeful because she treated everyone with fairness and honesty. Ron watched all of this from the side, feeling both proud and sad because he realized how close he had come to losing someone so important. One afternoon, Mia invited Ron to attend a meeting with her, not as a worker but as her husband, and he felt nervous but grateful for the chance, and when they arrived, people greeted Mia with respect and Ron felt a quiet awe. During the meeting, Mia spoke clearly about new plans and Ron listened carefully, and for the first time he truly saw her as a leader and not just the quiet woman at home. After the meeting they walked together and Ron thanked her for giving him another chance to be by her side, and Mia said that she was not sure what the future would bring but she was willing to see if real change could grow. The road ahead was still long but something new was beginning between them, built not on pride but on understanding, and time would show if it was strong enough to last. The days after that meeting were filled with quiet changes and small steps, and even though nothing loud or dramatic happened, the feeling inside Ron and Mia's home slowly began to shift into something softer and more real, and Ron continued to help around the house not because he was asked but because he finally understood that sharing a life meant sharing the work too. Mia watched these changes with careful eyes and she did not rush to trust him fully because trust once broken took time to grow again, but she noticed that Ron was trying and that alone meant something new was beginning. At work, Mia became more respected as her ideas helped the company grow in healthy ways, and people felt safe coming to her with their problems and questions because she listened and treated everyone fairly, and Ron saw how people valued her and it made him realize how wrong he had been to think of her as small. One evening Mia came home tired but peaceful, and Ron had made dinner and cleaned the kitchen, and even though the food was simple it carried a meaning that words could not show, and Mia smiled gently as they sat down to eat. They talked about their days, and for the first time in a long while they spoke like true partners and not like two people living in different worlds, and the distance between them felt smaller. Later that night Ron told Mia that he wanted to be better not just for her but for himself, and that he did not want to live behind empty pride anymore, and Mia listened and told him that real strength came from honesty and respect, not loud words. In the weeks that followed, Ron worked on himself and he stayed humble at work and tried to learn instead of showing off, and slowly people began to treat him with quiet respect again because they saw real change. Mia continued to lead with calm confidence, and even though she held great influence she never let it make her forget where she came from, and she treated everyone with kindness from the highest office to the smallest desk. One afternoon Ron and Mia walked together through a park near their home, and the sun was soft and warm, and Ron held Mia's hand gently and thanked her for not giving up on him, and Mia said that everyone deserved the chance to grow when they truly tried. They knew the past could not be erased but it could be learned from, and together they chose to build something better from the pieces that remained. As time passed, their home became a place of quiet understanding and shared effort, and laughter slowly returned to the rooms and the weight that once filled the air faded. Ron no longer needed to feel big by making others feel small, and Mia no longer needed to hide her true self, and they both learned that respect was the strongest foundation any relationship could have. And so their story did not end with anger or loss but with growth and new beginnings, and in that simple truth they found something more valuable than pride: they found peace.